A furniture making business manufactures quality furniture to customer orders. It has two production departments, P1 and P2, and one service department, S1. Budgeted overheads for the year are as follows. We have indirect costs as rent and rates 10K, machine insurance 8K, telephone 6K, depreciation 12K, and then cost of department S1 before the overheads are 50K. The labor rates in P1 are £12 per hour and in P2 are £10 per hour. Calculate, that's the requirement 1, calculate the overhead cost for each department and an overhead absorption rate for each department based on direct labor hours. Both departments will be using direct labor hours. Sometimes it happens that one department would be using labor hour and the other department would be using machine hours. So that's the requirement 1, which we will be dealing with overheads mainly. And then we have requirement 2, job number Q101 has the following cost. Direct material, £300, labor hours, 20 hours. It takes 20 hours in P1 and it takes 10 hours in P2. Calculate the cost of job Q101. We need a bit more information to deal with these costs. How are we going to attribute these costs to P1 and P2? For that, we need the basis of absorption. So what we have, statistical information. We have floor area. P1 has 800 square meter and P2, and S1 has 400, half of that. Machine values, P1 100K and P2 50K, S1 50K. Direct labor hours, 3,000 and 450, 4,500. Nothing in S1 because it's not a manufacturing department. Only cost centers would have direct labor. They would not have, the service centers would not have direct labor. Telephone samples of cost 20, 10 and 70%. So we have to take a percentage. And then service department, who it serves. It serves 40% to P1 and 60% to P2. So the cost of S1 should be apportioned to P1 and P2 in this proportion. Let's answer this example now, guys. I have created the table, same table, which we have seen on our slides here on my Excel now. So what I'll do, I'll input the data there and then I will answer this example. The example is about apportioning these overheads to our different departments, P1, P2 and S1. Okay, so first of all, let's put in totals here. Actually, the totals column should have been here. So let me pick it up and insert. And now do it. There we go. Let's just delete this thing. All right. Total, we don't need this big. All right. So the total rent and rates are 10,000. 8,000 machine insurance, 6,000 telephone, 12,000 is depreciation, and the common for 50,000 for S1 are this much. All right, absorption basis. Now rent and rates, as you have seen the slide, there are some understood absorption basis, so we'll use these ones. Commonly known and accepted, and rent and rates would be on the basis of floor area. Machine insurance would be on the basis of value of machines. Telephone should be based on number of calls. Depreciation again should be based on value of machines, so I can copy it. And S1, I think we have some information in the question how S1 should be done, which is here. However, we will S1 department, service department cost split 40% P1 and P2, but this one needs to be done in the second stage, not in the first stage. Okay, so the information we need here is this one, which is gives us detail on the floor area and so on and so on. So I'll do some workings here to explain how this common cost would be apportioned. So workings. So the first one is my rent and rates. What we need to understand is the rent and rates should be apportioned on the basis of floor areas occupied. Now, if you look at the floor area, we can see 800 P1, 800 P2, and S1 is 400. So this is all together 2,000. So let me show you, plus 800 plus 400, 2,000 is the total floor area of the whole factory. Now we need to prorata it, and prorata mean we take the space taken by P1 and then we divide it by the total area, and this is get the percentage or a proportion of the area which is occupied by P1, and then we multiply that with the total value of rent and rates, and we get our result. So I'll show you the formula here, and then I'll do the workings on top. So the formula would be for P1. So P1, I'll do 800 occupied by P1. The total area is 2,000. I use this here. Equal sign. And then I'll multiply this with 10,000. Why 10,000? Because 10,000 is the total cost. This will give us how much should be charged to P1. So let's do that now. 800 divided by 2,000. I should have used brackets to keep this calculation separate to my division. Multiplication, sorry, and then we multiply this with 10,000. So 4,000 of the cost should be allocated to P1. We can do separate calculation for P2. However, it is really not necessary because the floor area which is occupied by P2 is exactly the same as P1. So I can simply copy and paste here 4,000, and then S1. We can do the same calculation, 400 divided by 2,000 times 10,000, and we can get our value, which is going to be half of what P1 and P2 are getting. Why half? Because the floor area is half. So on that basis, rather than doing a calculation, actually I'll do a calculation in this thing just to give you a good understanding of the matter. Divided by 2,000 and times 10,000, and I get 2,000, which I expected. Double checking if our calculation is correct or not, I am going to add up everything and I'll see if this is totals 10,000. So I can see at the bottom of the screen the sum is 10,000, and I started with 10,000, so that means I have allocated everything correctly. Next is our machine value of machines. So value of machines should be, machine insurance should be based on value of machines. If you look on the slide, P1 has 100,000 worth of machines. P2 has 50,000 worth of machines, and S1 also has 50,000 worth of machines. So we total up the value of machines here. So machine insurance, Control C. And I total up the value of machines, which is simple, but I just do it for the sake of comprehensiveness, 200. So now I will proportion P1, Control C, and I'll apply the same rule, 100. I will avoid zeros, no need for the zeros, 200, and the total cost is 8,000. So that's my equation here, and my answer would be I'll calculate it here. So brackets 100 divided by 200 times 8,000 is the total cost. So 4,000 should be given to P1. For P2 is half of this. I'll do the maths anyway. 50 divided by 200 times 8,000. So 2,000 cost should be allocated to P2. And then because P2 and S1 has the same area, we can have exactly the same cost. Again, the cost which we have apportioned, the total is same as our actual total. So our calculation is correct. Telephone calls, number of calls on the basis of that. And in this case, we don't have to do this working. We simply multiply the percentage to get it with that. So for the number of calls, the total cost is 6,000 times 20%. Now 20%, those who understand maths, there, the 20% is actually 0.2 or 20 divided by 100. They're all the same things, okay? So if I do the maths, I get 1200. Similarly, total cost times 0.21 and I get 600. And then again, total cost times 0.7 and I get 4,200 for S1. So S1 uses a lot more of phone calls than any other department. The total cost between three departments is 6,000, which was our original total telephone cost. Depreciation. We have used the same proportion here, so that's what we are going to do now. My total cost is 12,000 times 100 divided by 200 and I get 6,000. Again, total cost 12,000 times the value of machines in P2 is 50 divided by 200 and I get 3,000. The value of machines in P2 and S1 are same, hence the proportion is same. So we can simply copy and paste here, but this time something strange happened and it would not go. So I'll put copy and I'll put numbers there. It does happen with Excel sometime, and sometimes it's just not worth investigating. Why is it happening? So all of the common costs have been apportioned now. What we need to do, we need to take all of this cost straight to our S1 and place it there. So now we have apportioned all of the factory costs into all of the departments, and now we can calculate the total cost. So the total cost here is, let's put the formula, sum of all of these values, and I get 86,000, and I copy the formula, Control C, and I select three cells. So shift button, arrow, right arrow, and I have selected 3 button. I press enter and my formula is copied here. So if I double check, the formula is actually the same with different cells numbers. So I got the total cost. Now if I total this up, you see 86,000 here and then 86,000. So my calculations are correct. Okay, well then next thing is to reapportion. If you go back to our calculation slides, you see that we have to reapportion S1. Now S1 is not a cost center. S1 is just a service center. Maybe it's a canteen or stores, and they do not produce products, so they cannot flush out their cost with the products. So they have to give their cost to the cost centers, which can flush out their overheads with the products. So products go out of the department and they take the overheads with it. That's the concept of absorption costing. All right, so let's do this now. taken away all of the cost from S1 and apportioning it to P1 and P2. How? On what basis? The slides gives us that basis: 40% P1 and 60% P2. So going back to my, okay, so what cost? I get this cost times 0.4, and then again this cost times 0.6. 0.4 plus 0.6 is 1, so that's 100%. So I have allocated all of this cost to my P1 and P2. If I take the total, you'll see that the total is 61,200 and 61,200. So I have allocated all of the cost to my departments. Now, what is left now? Let's see. Nothing happened there, no impact there. It would not take it, so let's just leave it there. 86,000. And now the actual plus S1. See, I put the formula there, and S1 has nothing left in it, and that's what it should be. So now we have allocated all of the factory costs to the two departments. All of these departments producing products, and they use labor hours to absorb overheads to the products. So if one product takes 1 hour, they would charge 1 hour worth of overheads to that product. So how we calculate that? We calculate, as we have seen in the slides, the formula for overheads is budgeted overheads divided by budgeted level of activity. So we have calculated budgeted overheads, which are given here as totals, and then budgeted level of activity is our labor hours, which are given in the question. Once we have both things, we have OAR. So going back to my data, the data is here, direct labor hours in both departments. So let's put that 3,000 in P1 and 4,500 in P2. We can calculate OAR now, absorption rate. So let's call it OAR, overhead absorption rate. How we calculate this? We calculate this by dividing our overheads, as the formula says, by the number of hours. 3.22. I'll deal with the decimals in a minute. I do the same thing with my P2, and I got the rate for that as well. So that is the end result of this apportionment and allocation exercise. Once we have this data, we can calculate the cost card. Okay, let me make this table pretty. I like pretty things, so let's do this. Let's reduce the zeros, which we don't need. However, I would need some decimal places here, so let's keep it to 2 decimal places. What else could be done to see everything in one go? That. All right, so we are done. So this was the ultimate objective of this exercise. So we have done requirement 1 of the question, which was calculate the overhead cost for each department and an overhead absorption rate for each department based on direct labor hour. Now, job requirement 2, we don't need this here now. I'll just delete it because let's not delete it. Let's take it down. Insert. So that's below. I will do job Q101 price or cost. So job number has the following cost. First of all, direct material. So you must see, you have seen this video after watching Daruris, which gives you basic introduction to how the cost card is built. So that is the same concept here. So the direct material cost, as you can see on the question, is £300. I'll leave a 2 for my workings, 300, and you will see why I'm doing that. Then direct labor. Labor, I have it, and then I have 2 departments, P1, and in P1 what we did 20 hours, and in P2 and in P1 we pay £12 per hour, so £12. And in P2 we did 10 hours and we pay £10 per hour, as the question says. So the direct labor cost would be, it turns out we didn't really need 2 columns, so I'll forget it. Let's do it right now here. Okay, so 20 times 12, and then 10 times 10, 100. So the total cost of labor would be 340. If we add these 2 costs, we get our prime cost. So that's my prime cost. Okay. Next is my overheads. And so overheads, we did all the above exercise basically. Okay, so let's insert a few more so that I can peacefully complete my question here. For overheads, the rates are here, and the hours, these rates should be applied on the basis of labor hours, and we have the information on the labor hours. We have used it here. Same labor hours will be used, only the rate will be different. The rate, why? Because this rate was the labor rate and this rate is overhead rates. So obviously that's why it's different. So in P1 we did 20 hours. The rate will be different though, so let me change the rate. 13.23, and in P2 again the rate will be 10.29. There we go. So we do the multiplications now. 20 times 13.23 and 10 times 10.29. So overheads, and the total of these would be this plus this, 368. And now we can get the total cost of providing job Q101, which would be this plus this and 1000 total cost. So usually cost is determined first and then a profit margin is added depending on different companies. They add different markup. So for example, their markup is 30%. So we add times 0.3, and the price of the job would be, now I'm just extending this last bit. This price was not needed in the original question, but just to give you a full picture, I've done this. That's how they would price it. So guys, that's what we were supposed to do in this in these slides. As you can see, I filled in. I hope you understood the topic, and after doing so, you do need to do the test now on the management accounting. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Any questions, let me know.